took me years to really feel comfortable in the studio, to not be nervous. I think it's pretty awkward working with something that you can't touch. You're always turning the pipe, always, making sure that the glass is on center while you're walking around, while you're heating it, while you're sitting at a funny bench.
In the early days of Bay Area glassmaking, glass artists like Pamina Traylor worked alone. They built their own primitive furnaces, melting down soda bottles and window glass to make their art pieces. But in the 1960s, glass programs were established at UC Berkeley, San Jose State University, and what is now the California College of the Arts. Now, Pamina is part of a growing community of glass artists, and the Bay Area is considered one of the centers of glassmaking in the U.S. To support her personal work as a glass artist, Pamina has a regular job here at Pinzetti, one of a growing number of Bay Area glass production studios.
When I'm here on Mondays, we make anywhere from 50 to 80 pieces a day, something like that, about one every 6 minutes.
Michael Sosin started Pinzetti Studios 16 years ago, producing handmade functional glass for sale in galleries and museum shops.
This is the furnace. This goes all the time. It's like a little lake of molten glass in there. It has the consistency of honey. We dip into it, turn a pipe in there like you might turn a stick in honey, gather it out, start to shape it.
The best way to learn how to blow glass is to actually work in a shop and have that repetitive experience. And when you do it over and over again, that's when you start to get good at it.
Most of the people that are working here assist my husband in his Pinzetti glass work 1 or 2 days a week. But then they also do their own work. So it's a whole community of people, and they all have a variety of things to sort of keep themselves in house and home and art.
Teamwork has long been an essential part of the glassmaking process. Even in her personal work, Pamina relies on many sets of hands to strike while the glass is hot. Many of her techniques are drawn from the time-honored tradition of Italian glass blowing. Cane work is just one example, a process that starts with pulling a long strand of colored glass, then breaking it into short canes that will be used to create a striped pattern on the surface of a vessel.
So we're going to take these cane pieces and heat them up in a row on a pastorale plate and then roll them up on a bubble to make the stripes of a decanter. I really enjoy the traditional functional use of glass. I'm extremely kind of devoted to making things that people use in the everyday, that people see every day and handle on a regular basis. Beautiful, yeah. There's a wonderful connection, I think, between the maker and the end user in functional objects.
Before becoming an artist, Pamina studied mathematics at Bryn Mawr and took a job at a securities firm in downtown San Francisco.
Turn fast. Drop your end a little.
While working on her MBA at San Francisco State University, she happened upon the glass program there.
I was really nervous about telling my parents that I wanted to be an artist.
I'll get it, Leah.
But actually, my parents had always stressed that I should do something that I love. My dad was really happy, and then my mother took my father aside and said, "You understand, this means we're going to have to support her for the rest of our lives."
Contrary to her parents' expectations, Pamina has been able to support herself, cobbling together a career out of teaching, production work, and selling her own personal pieces, which are now on display in galleries and collections across the country. She and her partner, Andrew Franklin, have just completed the conversion of this old office into a live workspace.
So this we're hoping to make into a gallery here, and this is going to be my studio on this side, the cold shop in here, and a finishing studio over here.
Few working artists can afford to run a hot shop, which means keeping a furnace hot around the clock. But Pamina can do cold work here in her home studio, sanding, etching, and finishing her pieces. Much of her current work involves combining other materials with glass.
I guess in terms of process, I really love to blow glass. I think that that's a wonderful process. But I also use a lot of different ways of working with the material depending on the effect that I want to get. So really I try to choose the method of working based on what the final outcome is going to be. Some of the new pieces I'm doing actually have text and photographic images. There's something wonderful about being able to see the object and then look through the object and seeing how it magnifies and distorts the words. I think it makes you think a little bit about how words are distorted when we speak to each other, how what you say is different from what is heard.
The ambiguity of language is a common theme in Pamina's work, often represented by glass shaped into tongue-like forms.
The tongues, definitely I wanted to deal with them as a symbol of language. So it looks kind of like a very extreme version of a tongue, like an icon of a tongue in some way.
For something as thick as this, we need to let it seize up or harden here at the bench. But the center will be a lot hotter still than the outside, so we need to kind of successively heat it and cool it and heat it and cool it. So I'm just keeping the parts that would cool off fastest warm while the thickest part cools off. One more time. Great.
I've made hundreds of these tongues, and they're meant to be part of a larger installation about the Japanese internment camps. And I'm experimenting with putting photographs on the back of these glass pieces so that you'll see the image behind, and I'm going to engrave them with different people's memories of their experiences in the camps. I tend to have an overall view of the piece, but if I actually make a piece and it comes out is exactly the way I imagine, it's never as exciting as coming upon roadblocks. The best pieces are the ones that develop because of things you discover along the way. That's one of the great things about making art, is that you're constantly growing and changing. There's that part about the last piece you made is always the most exciting, and you want to keep it. It's so highly coveted. But then as soon as you make another one, that one's not as interesting. Then the next one is really the exciting thing.